Hi, it's Louise at Spiral Bright Insight. I want to share my thoughts about the year 2025 in terms of the astrology and bringing in the galactic and cosmic influences that we are going to be working with. But rather than do a kind of full, comprehensive sort of run through of all the different transits and the different aspects and sort of the key events of the year, I've decided to really hone in on some of the events and energies that I feel are really going to be influencing a huge spiritual awakening for us all in 2025 and beyond. Now, before I go any further, if you're new to my channel, my name is Louise. I am a galactic and an intuitive astrologer, and I share content that really sort of brings in traditional astrology and fuses and merges it with fixed stars, cosmic points, and galactic energies. So enabling us to have a broader picture. I am very interested in starseed connections in particular. And for me, what I have been sort of really contemplating of late is the fact that, for star seeds, and by star seeds, I mean souls who have origins or connections to other stars, other dimensions, other galaxies, other places in the universe, and souls who have agreed to come here to incarnate and be in human physical form in order to bring through the star energies that they have connections to. This is where we get this term star seed from. It is literally souls who are seeding the star energies into the earth. But I feel that we're moving past the time of seeding the energies. It is my belief that the energies have been seeded, they have taken root, and they are now starting to bloom and to rise and certainly to grow. And there are quite a number of activations and events this year through the astrology that I feel are really highlighting this truth. So just in terms of background, obviously, there are lots of astrologers out there sort of sharing information about 2025 and the huge amount of change and sort of landmark and watershed events that we are going to be navigating. Now, we are in a 9 universal year now, so this is very much about completion, about endings, about letting go, about creating space and removing all that we have outgrown in order so that we can bring in the new, because we can't, if there's too much clutter and there's too much attachment to the old, it's very hard to bring in the new. We need to make space. So this is a massive year for doing that. And as well as that, we have the energy as we move into the Chinese New Lunar Year. We will be working with the energy of the wood snake, which really brings a focus to the energies of shedding, of letting go, of releasing old versions of ourselves, old skins, also bringing through a connection to ancient wisdom, to intuition, to adaptability, and very much to the divine feminine energies as well. So we have this backdrop throughout the whole of the year, and also have a lot of the outer planets changing signs, which, in itself is huge because the outer planets have very slow transits. They do not change signs that often, but in 2025, we have we have a number of outer planets changing signs. So we are going to be working with a new nodal axis as the nodes move from Aries and Libra into Pisces and Virgo, and that is happening on the 11th or the 12th of this month in January. That transit then continues for the next 18 months. We also have Uranus is going to complete the third decan of Taurus and move into Gemini for a time later on this year in July. We have Saturn moving from or through the third decan of Pisces and into Aries. And we also have Neptune completing the final degrees of Pisces and moving into Aries as well. So the fact that we have two outer planets transiting the final degree of the entire zodiac and moving into the 0 degree of Aries, which is on the world axis. It's the cardinal axis. It is the point of complete new creation and new beginnings is really, really significant. We also have Jupiter, who has a 12-month transit moving from Gemini into Cancer. And of course, we're still working with Pluto in the very, very early degrees of Aquarius. So what I want to do in this video is really take you through some of these transits, and I will explain to you why I think they are really contributing to a mass spiritual awakening, and also an awakening at a galactic level. So just to start with the backdrop of Pluto in Aquarius, currently at 1 degree, will move all the way to 3 degrees this year. Pluto in Aquarius is very much sort of asking us to really overhaul what it means to be human. This is a massive transformation and a rebirth for humanity as Pluto moves through this sign for the next 20 years. Huge shifts in technology, which we're already starting to see with the sort of growth and the rise of AI. Huge amounts of information coming through and being unlocked and uncovered, because Aquarius is an air sign, so lots of change. But for me, what is really exciting is Pluto in Aquarius is going to ask us to do a lot of shadow work with regards to humanity and to society. So this is a transit where we're going to start to see possibly the more seedier, more corrupt aspects of society and humanity as all comes up to be seen, to be transmuted and to be healed. So, whereas we were working with Capricorn, which was the patriarchal society, with Pluto's previous transit, we are now working with the collective. And with this transit, I do feel that whatever change occurs, we're going to feel it across the world. This is change at a real collective level, and it has the potential to really bring us together as well because of this. Because this is something, whatever happens within this transit over the next 20 years, it is something that affects us all, and something that is potentially going to unify us and make us realize that we are actually a tribe, that we can stand together. And this, in turn plays a big part in unity consciousness that I feel is part of the ascension process. So with Pluto moving through the early degrees of Aquarius this year, he is activating a fixed star called Altair in the Aquila constellation. This is the eagle energy. So this is very much about being bold, having the courage to face the transformation, having the ability to see obstacles and challenges as something that can be worked through, rather than something that is a setback or a block or a barrier, helping us to really beat these challenges and face them sort of square on. This is about sovereignty. It is also about working with the divine masculine and how we can use that to empower ourselves. It also has a link to Atlantis, and so there are absolutely themes coming forward from the Atlantean times, which we are going to be working with, that are ultimately helping us to evolve and to become more empowered, to work through any issues of control or disempowerment, and really helping us to evolve at a collective level. So I've talked about Atlantis in previous videos, but this feels like it is very strong for the whole of this year. We also have with Altair the sort of an aspect that involves working with spells and magic and words and the power of words, and how that potentially is going to help us with manifestation this year. But it also requires us to be mindful of what we are thinking about, what we are saying, because we're going to start to understand that actually our words and our thoughts have a lot more power and impact than we might have perhaps realized. Now, the other wonderful insight that I had with regards to Pluto moving through Aquarius is the fact that, Aquarius really is about taking an unconventional path, perhaps being maverick, eccentric, and through that often we are excluded or ostracized or seen to be weird and somehow to be feared. But as Pluto transforms our attitude to that at a collective level, it does feel to me as if those people who have perhaps been sidelined or sort of lived on the periphery, on the outskirts of society, are going to be able to come in and step more in, not to necessarily become the mainstream, but to become included and welcomed and seen and valued as having something that is, you know, really worth while and can form a really strong contribution to society. So this really is a transit that is going to help all of those who have felt like outsiders to come within, to be welcomed into the flock and to be seen as part of society and part of the tribe. So, you know, this is a great transit for healing the witch wound, for seeing that perhaps those who have questioned the norms and questioned convention and dared to go against the grain actually have got a lot to offer, and, you know, they're going to have their voice heard and feel much more empowered as through doing so. So Pluto in Aquarius is going to be continue to be in a square to the Shapley attractor, which is one of the cosmic points, and this really is helping to enforce truth and the frequency of truth, and to strip away anything that is out of alignment with authenticity and integrity, to really force the dropping of masks and veils and any attempt to prevent us from connecting to who we truly are. And there's also a trine with the supergalactic center, which again has been ongoing for 2024 and will continue in 2025, which is really very supportive connection, a very supportive aspect, but is asking us to really stretch our understanding about who it is we believe or think we are, where we come from, taking us out as far as possible in order for us to reconnect with the source energy and ultimately come home to the self. So, you know, this is very powerful, very magnetic energy that is working with Pluto to help uncover the truth of who we are. And as Uranus, who's currently in Taurus but will be moving into Gemini in July, as Uranus steps into the early degrees of Gemini, Uranus will contribute to this grand air trine, which is formed with Pluto in Aquarius, the supergalactic center, and then currently Sedna in Gemini is forming part of the grand air trine, but Uranus will come in to activate it even more, and this has huge exciting potential. So I'm going to talk about Uranus and Gemini shortly, but, you know, this is a really powerful time at so many levels. Now, the next sort of big deal in terms of spiritual awakening is the fact that the nodes are moving into Pisces and Virgo. So they are changing axis. This is the axis of service, and it is service to our spiritual selves through Pisces and service in a physical sense through Virgo. And I am going to do a separate video about what I feel this means and go into the energies in more depth. But I sort of, from a top line perspective, I feel that this is really going to encourage us to step into a deeper connection with our higher selves, with our spiritual self, and with spiritual truths. Pisces really encourages us to step into the void, to let go of our attachment to human condition, to human expression, to the 3D mundane day-to-day reality. We have to almost disconnect from that when we're working with Pisces. This is very ethereal, very mystical, very magical energy, very psychic, very spiritual. And it really encourages us to come into a connection with the one, with unity consciousness, with compassion for all, to connect with all that is, to connect with a higher power, to sort of increase our belief systems and our faith, and to really trust in a higher path. So with Pisces and the North Node here, and especially with Neptune here and Saturn, very strong Pisces energy for the first quarter of the year, I feel that we are going to be gradually, or possibly not even gradually, very quickly sort of losing our connection to linear time, which is going to affect our reality and our perception of reality in quite unexpected ways, potentially. It's absolutely about facing the unknown and being able to sort of be at peace with that. It is also about surrendering to what is going to be, and sort of having that trust that everything is working out for the greatest good. Very otherworldly sort of connection to other dimensions is going to become more sort of part of our day-to-day reality. And, I believe that with the increase of the solar activity, which again is really forcing us to ascend, to awaken to higher truths, to release density within our physical bodies, this is all part of that process. And with the nodes moving into Pisces, this again is another piece in that picture. So I will talk about the nodal axis in more detail in a video which will follow this one. But it just seems a really sort of pertinent transit that is really playing a big part in a greater spiritual awakening, because this is something that is affecting us all at a collective level. Now, with the nodes moving into Pisces, they move in retrograde, so they start at 29 degrees. They are going to connect with and activate a fixed star in the Pegasus constellation, Shayat. Now, this is very multidimensional energy. Shayat and Pegasus this is the winged horse, the pathfinder, the way shower, and really helping us to release from any chains that have kept us bound or entrapped. This is the energy of freedom, of being of multi-dimensional, multi-galactic frequencies. It shows really that we are on a spiritual quest, and really helps us to harness that energy and that excitement in that truth. It's going to help us to push boundaries, to rise up, to see the bigger picture, to be able to have a vision of what we want to create, to see beyond, and to release ourselves. And also, I do feel that this connection with Shayat is going to really start to release our attachment to linear time, which again, means that we're going to start seeing some strange things happening. Possibly, some time shifts, some timeline jumps, which again, it has been happening, but it's going to become more regular and more often. So this is glitches potentially in, what we might describe as the matrix. So time is likely to get weird as we navigate the next couple of months, particularly with Neptune moving towards the final degree of Pisces and meeting the North Node, and all of that sort of combination. Very powerful, very ethereal, very dreamy, very mystical energy for sure. Now, Jupiter in Gemini is going to be moving through the second part of Gemini after he turns direct. And this, for me, is about expanding the mind, expanding our belief systems, and expanding our mindset, but also expanding the themes of Gemini, which relate to choice, to division, to duality, because Gemini is the twins, and so there are different strands, different ways to look at things. And I feel that Jupiter, as he moves back through the second half of this sign, is going to really expand that experience for us. And I feel there is purpose in this. It's going to feel like there are lots of different voices. There is going to be an onslaught of information. For sure, there's disclosure coming up with Pluto in Aquarius as well. But with this sort of emphasis on the duality and the choice and having to take sides, it feels as if Jupiter is going to really be serving us, because as this gets louder and noisier, it's going to be harder to ignore. And often we need to be really pushed to the limit before we are ready or willing to consider changing something. And I feel that Jupiter is playing a role here in making things so exaggerated that we're going to feel that we can't continue in this way. And so, this is a transit that is going to continue until June, and then in June Jupiter's going to move into Cancer for its for the next 12 months, which will change the energy. Jupiter in Cancer really brings us back to the home, to wanting to connect with our inner world, with our inner emotions. Jupiter in Cancer will really enhance our sensitivity and our empathy for sure, and require us to really kind of connect with what home means for us. As Jupiter moves through the final degrees of Gemini, he's going to activate the stars in the Orion cluster. So again, this feels very karmic in terms of sort of bringing through past themes of duality and separation and division, which is very much part of the Orion story and our sort of galactic human karma and history. And as this sort of comes up, I will be coming on to talk about that in more detail in a separate video. We have Neptune in the final degrees of Pisces, of being followed by Saturn also moving through the final degrees of Pisces. So this is very much about the completion of a cycle that has taken both planets through the entire zodiac, admittedly at different speeds because Neptune's transit is so much slower than Saturn. But this is the completion of a journey and stepping into a new one. Very pioneering when both Neptune and Saturn move into Aries, and really the start of a brave new world. So as Neptune moves through the final degrees of Pisces, I feel that we could feel even more confused, but we're actually going to, through that confusion, be called towards a more spiritual expression and a more spiritual state of being, which is a really beautiful fixed star to be working with because this brings a connection to the Lemurian frequencies, so the 5D version of Earth that we have had in the past. It also connects to inner Earth, to Agartha, to the wisdom that we can find or that we have stored in crystals in previous lifetimes that are waiting to be exposed and sort of rediscovered. It also helps us to start to construct a new way, which is going to feel very tangible and very long-term, much more stable than perhaps we've had before, and very much an energy of co-creation, bringing grounded wisdom into the earth through the star energies, through the star support, meeting spirituality with science and intuition with reason. So this is a really beautiful energy, and again, one that I will be talking about in more depth as we move through this year because it feels really significant. Neptune, as he moves towards Aries, is going to start to oppose the supergalactic center. Now, this is actually active already because the supergalactic center has a much wider orb. But again, this is really stretching our idea of who we are, stretching our connection, increasing our consciousness for sure, and really pushing us to explore something outside of ourselves so that we can see the truth that actually what we're looking for lies within. So this is taking us out to the void in order to be able to realize the truth that what we are looking for is actually inside each of us. So Saturn moving through Pisces is really helping us to bring form and structure and also maturity and mastery to our spiritual experience, to welcome in this really exciting new cycle as he then passes over that threshold into 0 degrees of Aries and meets and aligns with Neptune in exactitude in February 2026. This is very karmic because we are working with both the combined energies of Saturn, which is very karmic in itself, and Pisces as the final sign of the zodiac. So really stepping into all that is, to letting go, to stepping into the void in order to be reborn. But what I'm most excited about in terms of 2025 is Uranus. Now, Uranus has an 8-year transit. So he has been in Taurus for the past 8 years. He's currently, as I record this, at 23 degrees of Taurus. So he has some way to go to get to the end of this sign, but it's going to happen in July 2025 on the 7th of the 7th. So I love the fact that we've got this sort of double 7, which is very much the number of insight and wisdom. And Uranus moving through the final degrees of Taurus is going to really continue to destabilize and deconstruct any sort of aspects of fixed earth in our chart through the Taurus sort of connection. So this is really shaking up our values, what we value, and our self-worth, our self-esteem, also resources, unlocking new gifts, unlocking energies that have perhaps been hidden or fixed within the earth. And I see this as ancient wisdom coming up through crystals or through structures that have perhaps been concealed or locked away until this time. I also see great shifts and breakthroughs in the resources that we have available to us and how we use them and how we work with the earth herself and her energies in order to support us and to recreate stability in our world. But as Uranus moves through the final degrees of Taurus, he is going to oppose Alpha Centauri. So there is that beautiful energy of new creation being activated. He's also going to move into a conjunction with the Pleiadian star cluster. So this is really sort of bringing in a new connection to our galactic neighbours, our galactic cousins, if you like, and, the energy of the 5D of heart consciousness. And I feel that it's the Pleiadian energy signature that is going to play a big part in helping us to create new Earth. And as Uranus moves into Gemini, I feel, there's lots of different ways to interpret this, but some of the information that is coming through, or the insight that is coming through to me, is about shaking up this sort of need to take sides, to have to choose sides, to have a very divisive and separatist approach, which, as we break through that and shake it up, we're going to find that, the answer actually lies in a more unified approach. And with Uranus in sextile to Neptune in Pisces, that feels very much part of the plan and the progress that we need to make in order to be able to evolve and to ascend. It also feels as if we are having a huge awakening of the mind and our understanding, and through new information being shaken up, being broken through, being unlocked. New levels of curiosity about who we are is definitely on the cards. And huge activations to the third eye and the throat through the Gemini signature. Absolutely. I also feel that this is going to support the awakening of dormant strands of DNA, because I see Gemini as strands. So again, as Uranus comes through, this is going to activate those dormant strands potentially. And I also see the strands as having the ability to create a web, which again you could interpret as the matrix. So again, I feel that this next sort of 8-year transit is going to be really breaking through what many have described as the matrix, but for me it's really sort of a mindset or a belief system that has kept us sort of entrapped or stuck in one way of sort of seeing the world. This absolutely is going to break apart, and we're going to start to see the truth in so many different ways, supported through Pluto in Aquarius, helping us to evolve at a humanitarian collective level, support of the supergalactic center stretching us out to sort of a consciousness and an understanding that lies way beyond the human 3D sort of understanding and experience. So, this is like just a massive shift, a massive awakening. And because Gemini is the sign that relates to the locality and the neighborhood, I do feel that this awakening is going to be happening at a very local level. So whereas before, you might have thought you needed to reach a certain level of consciousness to be able to see things, in a different way, it feels that this level of consciousness is coming down to us at a very local level. And it means for me that it is going to be much more widespread. So very, very exciting. And almost as if, because Gemini sort of can be very scattered in its approach, it's almost as if this awakening is sort of being scattered around everybody. It's going to be very hard to not be affected by it. It's kind of what is coming through. So definitely breaking up old mental patterns, old mindsets, old understandings. And this is happening at a very, very fast sort of rate, very fast speed, because Gemini is fast. Very mutable, lots of things changing, shifting very quickly, jumping timelines potentially as we sort of look at the different strands, we start to be able to jump from one to the other. And certainly lots of new stories coming to light, lots of downloads coming through Uranus into the mind and into the body. So a very exciting time, and Uranus will move into Gemini and then move back into Taurus, which for me feels like an opportunity to sort of take, that initial 0 degree, 1 degree of Gemini energy and all the awakening, and then bring it back and embody it as Uranus moves back into Taurus, in order to then move forward and really start a completely new way of looking at the world. So I obviously haven't covered everything at all. There will be so much to share as we move through the year, but I just wanted to really explain why I feel so excited about this year and how I see so much potential for really widespread, deep awakening, rising of consciousness, and a lifting out of sort of feeling trapped in the 3D reality into a much bigger perspective and a much higher dimension and frequency ultimately, and how the astrology is playing such a big part in that. Of course, it's not all about the astrology, there are lots of other contributing factors for sure, but this is what I see in the charts and what lies ahead. So I hope you have found that useful, interesting, and that let me know what you think. And yeah, as I said, I'm sure I've missed a million things because there's always so much to share, but it kind of gives you a snapshot, a bigger picture. And yeah, very excited about what lies ahead. So if you want to join my mailing list and you're not already on that, please sign up via my website, spiralbright.co.uk. I am available for readings if this is something you want to look at in terms of how the energies are affecting your own natal chart. So that is very much available. I invite you to look at the services on my website and see what you are drawn to. And also, please join me at the Quantum Soul Guidance Summit, which is happening on the 14th of January. It starts on the 14th. I am going live that particular evening with my presentation about galactic astrology, but there are many other practitioners over the following 5 days who are going to be bringing their amazing content to you through that summit. So the link to sign up for that is in the description box below. I'm going to leave it there. I wish you so much love and appreciation and gratitude, and I will be back soon.